Hi, so I just wanted to go over the questions that we did yesterday and show you how you should have found the information as we were reading. So the first question asked the exposition, and if we look over here, the morning of June 27th was clear and sunny. So the very first line, that's explicit reading. We're reading for information. That's the summer. We also know that there are only 300 people in this town, so we know that it's a small town. The next question was a little trickier. We had to infer based on some of those details. So if we go to the next slide, we look here, what is the mood at the start of the story? And we had pulled out and written here, and excuse that because that was edited in our room yesterday for question 2. We were looking at some of those minor details, that their jokes were quiet, that they smiled rather than laughed. And later on, that there was kind of a space kept. The villagers kept their distance, and there was hesitation before anybody tried to help. All right. So they're not really relaxed. There might be some anticipation of what's about to happen, but it's not relaxed. It's kind of awkward. They're a little bit reserved. They're holding back. So that's why we're going with that awkward tension. Something is keeping them a little hesitant and a little muted in their emotions. The next question asks you to go ahead and find 2 quotes that prove that this is an old tradition. Now, if we look at this, and I'm going to try to make this a little bigger for us, the lottery, the original paraphernalia, so the original items were lost long ago. You could have pulled that one out. Or that it was older than Old Man Warner, the oldest man in town. Just the box is older than the oldest man in town. There's the story that it was made of pieces from the box that preceded it. In other words, the box before this one was constructed when the people first made the village. That's showing me that they founded the village, but the tradition came with them because they actually built a box right away. We also later on talk about how instead of paper, it used to be wood chips. So that indicates kind of an older type of tradition. So when I ask you to pull out 2 quotes, there were many you could have picked. But again, I want the actual words. I want you to cite the actual textual evidence. Question 4 is a vocab right here. It asks what soberly means in this context. And if we were paying attention to the characterization of Mr. Summers, we realized he was a kind person. He's also the person that runs most of the town events. He had been sworn in as the person to conduct the lottery. He is definitely doing the job, upholding the tradition. And when he says it's time to get started so we can all go back to work, really we're looking at this kind of serious and sensible manner. And of course, this then affects the mood or atmosphere. It's about time to get really serious, to get started. 6 and 7 were your exit ticket questions. And for 6, we were looking at those repeated images. And if we go back here, we have that pile of stones. So stones and stones again, and they eventually made a pile of stones. On the next page, the men stand away from the pile of stones. Bobby runs back to the pile of stones. So in 2 paragraphs, we see this repeated almost 5 times. That's what I mean by the repetition of an image. Okay? And we also have the whole conversation about the black box. How old it is, people standing away from it, it being put on the stool. Okay, so that's another repeated image. Why do we think this is done? So the first step in answering that question is to realize it's done for a reason. Authors just don't repeat things over and over again unless they are significant. So this, of course, would mean that they are either symbolic or foreshadowing. And finally, we asked, how does that author create suspense. And in creating suspense, really at this point, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Why does the whole town have to be there? What is going to be won in this lottery? Who's going to win the lottery? Okay, so all of these questions that we have.